Okay. So yes, everyone here, and then like I said, Benny for lighting, and then Crescent as our production manager and COVID compliant officer for the project. Um, the budget for this project is minor, as it is with any of our things that's happening and taking place this year. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in particular as Brittany goes through her concept. So we can also hear the conversation she's also had with, I'm assuming Michael Willis, in regards to what can be done sound wise, which tends to, and rightfully so, eat up the budget that we have. And so that's it for me at this time. Brittany, I yield it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Um, the concept for coming home is very simple. It's the marriage of Sankofa, which is our departmental theme for the season. It's the marriage of Sankofa, and the images are the thought of home, the meaning of home. Because we're coming back after being alone and being away, and not being able to be in production as we have seen it before. The idea is a marriage and understanding that as we move forward in this sort of new understanding of what theater looks like and what it can look like, we don't want to forsake or forget what came before. And so this is a review of Black musical theater moments. Nas not gonna get everything because we ain't got time for that, nor do we have the budget for that. But it is just that marriage of understanding who we are and reclaiming that as we march forward into the next phase of what theater looks like. As you see in the concept, there's a color story that's kind of specific there. Um, I wanted to really look at and understand culturally what colors mean and how we can move through from the dark and the more muted, and Black having a more ancestral connection and spiritual connection, moving into the brighter colors that speak of healing and of sort of redirection and regeneration and things like that. So, yes, that's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brittany. I want to give room to actually, I want to go back because I forgot to bring up the production schedule. I do know that all of you have this already, but I just want to reiterate dates that we're working with as far as in Ira Aldrich Theater and time that we're working with in Ira Aldrich Theater. So Professor Johnson will be looking to schedule some of this within class, some of this within practice space as they're working on pieces, but they will have access to Ira the week after we film, which is pretty much next week. And so what I have to find out from tech is giving room for the clearing out of anything. I know we're brought it back to the initial concept for Cakewalk, so there won't be a ton of stuff, but I just want to make sure that we are giving room. And so at least maybe a day or so. So Brittany, probably that Tuesday or so, you'll be able to get access to Ira to give them the Monday time to sort of just restore from whatever needs to happen in the space. So MT will be, and I'm sorry, Brittany, let me stop and ask, did we settle on Ira? I know you were talking at one point between Ira and ETS and so we're settled on Ira. So, okay, great. And so rehearsals will go all the way up and through October 31st. And then there'll be room in the schedule. We will and can readjust based on ideas and concepts that the designers bring to the table. But tech would be that November 1st through the 4th. And the film schedule is set with TL November 5th, 6th, and 7th. Those are the dates. We have not yet solidified the times. The 5th is a weekday, so that would obviously probably be like a 7 o'clock start time or 7:30, depending on costuming and things of that nature of getting dressed. But the 6th and 7th, we would have to confirm, and set those times. My goal is that our next meeting will include TL, as well as Michael Willis, as well as Kevin, who is doing graphic design, and these other parts and elements. But I want just the core team for today. So I just wanted to give you guys that idea in regards to framing up and scheduling and timing of what we're working with. Hopefully, Harlan, I know you're on the road, but hopefully everyone has gotten a chance since yesterday to look at the concept and be able to ask some questions. And if not, that's okay. We want to make sure that you do that so that we can get those questions to bring as soon as possible so that we can move forward with the one-on-one design and director meetings and things of that nature to get set up. But all that to say, I would love to give room for each of the designers to speak based on what they've seen and just whatever questions they have. Harlan, are you in the position to talk?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Brittany. How are you?
I'm well. How are you today, Harlan?
Good. So I glanced over the concept, and a few things just kind of. First of all, I like it very much, and I love the colors, and I love what you want to do with it. It kind of reminds me of Dreamgirls with those moving stair units that spin around and meet different platforms and things of that nature. My first concern was budget. So that's another, I guess, conversation to come a little later on. And then the other thing that stuck out to me was scrim. Is that a full stage scrim? Are you thinking panels?
So in my ideal world, there are 3 scrim panels, one large for center and then 2 smaller, so that we can use the sort of downstage area for staging. And then we have a few pieces that start in one way and in another, so that we could have some sort of pantomiming going on behind scrim, lit in a different way, and then make reveals there. We can also use that space so that we're not full stage all time. And so, yes, 3 panels if the budget allows.
This is black scrim, or is it some kind of Sankofa design?
No,
I
black.
just want to. Black. Okay, black scrim. Do you have, Tony? Do you have scrim at all?
You're asking if we have black scrim?
Yeah. Do we have any scrim?
I don't. That's Jackson would know better than I would. I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
Right.
But it would be in that loft where all the soft goods are stored.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing that stood out were the moving units. The step units, we can certainly, from what I've seen over in the warehouse, we would have to make new step units to do what you want, because the ones that are there are way too wide. They're 4 feet wide and they're overbuilt. So rolling units stepwise, I don't see that being a problem. The only thing that kind of concerns me are the moving platforms, because I'm assuming that people will be on them and dancing.
Yes.
Yeah, because once, even if we get locking casters, platforms are really hard to really get sturdy, per se. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's difficult. It would be easier, and we could talk about this, if the platform was stationary and the step units rolled. That would be a lot safer. But it's not impossible. We just have to really sit down and make sure we get the right locking mechanisms to make sure that those units, because I'm assuming they're going to be pretty, you're looking for them to vary in height, right? I'm guessing. So yeah, because the higher you go, the trickier it gets. So we just have to sit down. I know Greg, he's done a lot of, I've seen some of his mechanism that he's come up with. So I should have a conversation with him to see the safest way to do that. So that would be my only safety concern is those moving platforms. The step units, I'm not worried about those. It's just those platforms, just finding a way to safely do it.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? So
Absolutely.
it's the platforms that are moving, or is it this step unit that's moving?
Both.
Yeah, both. From what I've read, it was both.
Yes, both.
Okay.
I know we have there's plenty of casters, so it's just finding a way to make sure that once it moves into place, that is safe. I've seen some situations where the wheel's actually on the hinge, and then they pop up. It's like a little lever trick you make, and then they pop up. They hinge up, and then the platform sits on the floor. And then when you're ready to move it, you have to re-engage it. The platform kind of pops up, and then kind of hard to describe, but basically it moves. If that makes sense. So it's just really just finding the safest way to do it, basically. So that's kind of where we're at. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I wouldn't say that. It's just researching and finding the best way to accomplish it. Otherwise, I don't see any issues as far as steps are concerned.
Okay, one other question. When it's regarding the scrim panels, Brittany, with those silhouetted looks behind those things, are you thinking about individuals, or are you thinking about whole groupings and things like that?
Both. It wouldn't both.
Okay, so I would just say they have flexibility just in case there's not, because if it's strips and panels, then that's one thing. To have the whole full scrim, if we have that or not, just be flexible to know that we may not get each one of those things, both at the same time.
Can you say that again?
So if we're looking at resources and what we have, we don't know what the shape of that scrim, the black scrim is.
Mhm.
It's back there. So if it's not hanging, it's probably because it was damaged in the first place. So that would be a conversation looking at if it's damaged, can it be, repaired and not looking hideous on stage, or if it's better just to make it into strips. So these are things that have to go on. If you're thinking about like paneled strips, one person or maybe two can fit behind it. But if you're thinking about doing like a whole, like cityscape panoramic or something like that, it might not be able to be, done. So just keep in mind the staging may have to, give or take some of those things.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I said one larger in the center, and then two smaller panels, stage left, stage right. I guess I should have been more clear.
And also something to think about, those would have to be framed some kind of way too. So that's something to consider. And scrim is relatively cheap, so I'll jump online when I get to my office and start seeing how much it costs per square foot.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding set? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. Do you see those panels flying, or are they dead hung, or do they stay in their spot, or do you want them to fly away at some point?
I would love for them to fly.
Okay.
In my ideal world, that's what they do.
Okay, well that's not hard to do. I just need to know, so make sure we have the hardware to do that.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, we're gonna hold for lighting because Benny is not with us. Brittany, did you want to offer an update at all about what you've discussed with Michael Willis so the team can get an idea of just kind of how he's coming in, what that looks like? Were you able to negotiate a fee so that the team can kind of get an idea of what is left available for them to work with?
So we're having that discussion today, actually, at noon. But when we look at budget, it includes him, and we also have to pay musicians as well. So we I'm looking to try to find more funds, some way somehow, and get them into the university directly to musical theater. But yes, that's what's there. But I'll be talking with Michael later on today and can report back.
Great, thank you. Apeo. Professor Brown, you there?
How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Doing okay. I like your color scheme as well, Brittany. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. So I've looked at every show title and song and the casting and some of your requirements. And you know, the big concern is whether or not we can do this with the budget and with so many things being thrown out for costumes. So in looking at your last statement, you said that the base costume for all the actors would be Black. Can you talk a little bit more about that for me?
So it was my sort of understanding in talking with Dominique initially that students would sort of need to supplement what we have or what we're able to do as far as costumes go, so that because of budget, because of COVID, because of all those things. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to relieve the budget in some way with them providing some of their own costuming pieces. Um, Base costume, I mean just Black, leotard and skirt for women, pants, shirt, character shoes for both men and women as their base for the ensemble. Thankfully, most of the work that we're doing here does not include the totality of the cast. So then costuming is not, let's move everybody toward this. It's just a few people here and there, but the base costume is that Black leotard, skirt, pant, character shoe.
So those are the items that the students will provide, the ones that have been cast in the performance?
Yes, ma'am. And like I said, my understanding was that students would need to sort of provide some other things. Dominique, if you can, am I on the right track in my understanding there? That they would need to sort of provide some other things so that we don't overburden the budget and overburden you since you're not on campus at this time.
My intentions are really to be there for tech and the film
Okay.
because it's a larger cast. And I just think I need to be there for you with this.
I would love that.
Yeah, but when I'm looking at some of the items, so let's just take the first block for the color purple.
Mhm.
You have ensemble. So is the ensemble the students dressed in Black?
Let me pull out my list here.
I'm just trying to get an idea of.
Yes, ma'am. I just need to pull out my show list. Give me just a sec. Yes. So the only things that would not be the only folks who, well, there's no one who wouldn't be in Black here. The only thing that's not the Black in mysterious ways are the hats, or if there's a vest accessory or something like that. Those things might not be the Black, but everyone would be in their base Black. there.
Okay, I got that. All right, great. So is it my understanding that when you list ensemble under requirements, is everybody else in the production other than the people that are highlighted?
In some, yes, in others, no. And it's not as specific yet because we have not started working with them.
Okay.
Everybody's not. So for Mysterious Ways, the hope is to have most everyone there. But if we look at something else that says ensemble, like Shadowland, that's not going to be everybody that's in the cast.
Yeah, okay, so you're gonna work that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my other concern is, I really know most of these students, and I have actually some in my class now. And the hair, with some of the hair that they actually have on their head right now, Sekou has matted dreadlocks,
Mhm.
and Shafiq has dreadlocks. John Wood has a huge fro. So have you thought about, I don't know what the requirements are for the students that enter into MC and acting. If you guys give them a mandate that, you know, you have to look a certain way, or we're gonna work with the hair that they have. Have you thought about that at all?
I want to work with the hair that they have.
Okay, so
Mhm.
that's really all I need to know as far as maybe a hat to put, because a hat is not going to fit over matted dreadlocks, afro, and things like that. So the people that are requiring hats, do they know they may have to cut their hair slightly in order for the hat to fit?
I'm trying to look at who.
I haven't seen Trenton since two
He
semesters.
has right now he has a small faux hockey thing going on, but a hat should be able to fit over that. It's not large in size. It's not a lot of hair. But if we need to talk about something different there, we can.
Or if he's willing to sort of like shave it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And he usually is amenable to those sort of things. And if he's not, then that's a different conversation for he and I to have.
Um, some of the dresses that you've listed for period dresses, Pearly and
Can you say again? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of what you were saying.
so Cicely is doing Pearly, I believe.
Yes, Cecily is. Mhm.
Cicely, so she's going to be in a period dress. I know Pearly was during the versions that I've seen during the Jim Crow law area.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've seen two versions of it, and they have the fluffy dance dresses on that have the petticoats. And are you thinking on that wavelength for her as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so when I see things like that, that may be something that I don't know if could be purchased, but I would have to build.
Okay.
Maybe, you know, I could build it here in my studio at home.
Yes, ma'am.
I think more intimate conversations like this with you, one-on-one, just going through each block.
Yes, please.
Helpful. But you know, my main concern is the budget.
Yes, it's the concern for all of us.
Yeah, so I don't want this to be another situation where something is desired but can't be fulfilled.
Yes, ma'am. I'm very realistic in understanding that
Yeah.
budget will move us in a direction that maybe is not the direction of my dream or my hope. I'm very aware of that. I'm very realistic when it comes to those sort of things.
So I think if we go through it one by one and we already know the limitations of what we actually have downstairs, which is not a lot,
Yes.
it'll help. Also, the filming on the 5th, 6th, and 7th, will that be stop and start, stop and start, stop and start for each song?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking about changes, whether or not things can be built to change or should they be built for quick changes?
No, ma'am, you don't have to worry about quick changes. We'll be stopping and starting, and we may not even record. We most likely will not record in the show order.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. We'll do all that in post-production. We'll put it together.
Yeah, and then we can distinguish what's a costume, what's a prop. That's, you know, who's going to split the money, things like that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Dominique,
Yes, ma'am.
is the money available?
It's available. How we're gonna access it is the question from angles of costuming and things of that nature. I know in the past we've had to get gift cards.
Right.
So that's why it's important that we circle back to this conversation of budget too, so we get a better understanding of what everyone needs, so we know how we can get the surplus that we need and things of that nature to be realistic. So and get us, what we need. So we will definitely move into that conversation sooner rather than later, because my hope is that we can begin these one-on-one meetings with either Harris in the room or Crescent, the PM in the room, to capture this information that you all are discussing, so we can see where things lie and what needs to happen.
Brittany, I'll do a lookbook as well, so we can look through just some images. They're basically inspiration images for each song category. I think it'll help us both.
Yes, great. Thank you so much.
Professor Brown, will we be able to identify a student in tech that can be your arms and legs to begin pulling some rehearsal things that they can use?
I can only work with the students that I've actually trained, because the students I have right now, they're dwindling out of the class because they've been cast. They think it's going to be a conflict, and these students just aren't trained. So I'm reaching out to students that I've already trained, and luckily I have some students that are willing to help me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I don't know how accessible they are every day, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's just an understanding that we as a team have, and that will be very helpful for Brittany when she's communicating to Maya, that when that stuff is going out in the rehearsal reports, the earlier, the better, of knowing that information of what the needs are, so that they can be pulled and turned around in enough time for usage and things of that nature. And we'll talk about that with Greg, and the same thing regarding props, but having those lists as early as possible helps with gathering things and pulling things until the actual item is finished being built or purchased or what have you. Okay. Any other questions or comments for costumes?
I'll probably buy as much as I can, Brittany, only because we have to.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I can use fabrics that I have in stock at my home as like a donation to the project if need be.
Okay. We appreciate that.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, you had your hand raised.
Thank you. I do. I'm either late or very early in asking this. In terms of how it's being shot visually, are we kind of doing it from the audience point of view with multiple cameras? Are we doing it? What's the thought about that so far? Visually.
So that'll be more of a TL coming in to confirm. I do know that he wants to play it up as much as he can, but.
Right, I apologize. I think this was really on Brittany's brain right now. I know TL is going to have his thing, but Brittany, how did you see this was going down visually?
Can you ask your question again?
In terms of how you want things to look when TL shoots it, how did you see that happening? Did you see it from the audience point of view? Or are you trying to get different types of shots for different types of moments? Or was your vision at this point, you're going to point some cameras at the performance on stage and record that and then cut it up later?
No, I want there to be different angles and things of that nature, not just what audience view would be. Since we have to film, I think it needs to move in a direction that's a bit more like a film, as opposed to just recording the audience view.
Okay, so with that being said, conversations between you and TL and his team, are you all going to storyboard or pre-visualize the shots?
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
happen. That's gonna happen.
So that's my
Okay.
understanding. I've not met with TL yet, but that's
Okay.
my understanding. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what Brendan already spoke about. When you all meet, that'll be you all's conversation. Again, we'll be shifting into these direct one-on-one meetings with everybody so that Brittany has the opportunity to dive deeper into each of these elements with the designer and even TL film director. And we'll be able to come back to another full-fledged production meeting with all of the updates and the highlights and information. Yeah.
Okay. Tacked on to my line of questioning. Michael Willis is mixing the audio for TL, right? Or were you doing something in front of people? That's either Dom or Brittany question.
So because it's, even though we're going in the direction of film, it's still very important for the students to have the practical application of musical theater. So Willis coming in will be dealing with the sound element of them performing live. Everything he will do is to mix and etc. as if we did have an audience from that angle. Again,
But
we'll
we
make
don't.
sure, but we won't, exactly. But
Okay.
we'll make sure that Michael and TL also are in, you know, having that right conversation of the right mix and all of that and how he's getting the sound feed and layering and just all of that stuff. So that'll be clear as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of, my wheels are starting to turn right now so that I can prepare for all those conversations you're talking about. So thank you. That's all I got for.
Okay. No worries. Brittany, just really quickly,
Well,
if you could
I
talk, go ahead.
apologize. I lied. I know Professor Gomes isn't here. So in terms of lighting, I saw your wonderful pictures of inspiration. How close are we trying to get to in front of audience lighting? And yeah, that's
So,
a
well,
conceptual
Brittany,
question.
well, Brittany, if you want to just talk a little bit about lighting since it's being recorded, like your thought process and idea. I do know that some of it will shift, obviously, because it's going to depend on what TL needs. I know we're going through that now with the Cakewalk series on how much light do we get, what are we doing. TL may decide after seeing some of the pieces to do some reverse shots, some round shots and things, so that would, you know, he may need house lights and things of that nature to assist with that. So I know some of that is you know, up in air in conversation because we need TL in the space. But I'm assuming we're just going off of the initial concept. But if you wanted to add anything to that, Brittany, please do so.
Well, the hope is that it's as close to production in the theater, having an audience lighting as possible. Now, if we need to make adjustments for the sake of recording, understood. But we want this to be as close to live theater without it being live theater as possible.
All right. So when they hear that, they'll be able to, you know, wrap their heads around what that looks like and what that means and get as close to that. And then again, there's the flexibility for all those things because of that. And then there's wonderful post-production where TL can say, well, I'll handle that in post-production. So again, those conversations will, you know, have soon to be able to morph into that. Yeah.
Okay. I yield the rest of my time.
No worries. I wanted to talk a little bit. I think our next Jackson isn't here, but I'll just, you know, go back to what I mentioned with costumes. Keeping that list, sending it out as soon as possible would be great as the actors are working on their business. Keeping that list up to date and current would be great. And then, you know, myself and Maya will connect about what that looks like. It means how you're receiving pieces. Have you received the full piece? Is it still rehearsal piece? Where that process is, so we can make sure you all have your things as soon as possible. The next thing on the list is just COVID protocols. Just reminding, I know, I'm sorry, Brown, go ahead.
I didn't hear everything you said just a few minutes ago.
Oh, that was, I'm sorry, I have my mask on. I was just referring to props, and that the same as how we spoke about costumes, having that list of what's needed, props would be the same way, so that Jackson can receive the list as soon as possible.
So the things that are requested that are not in the shop. So just be aware of that as well.
Correct. And that's why we have the list sooner, the better we know of what someone may have at home to donate and bring in, or what we have to purchase. And again, it, goes back to budget. So the sooner we have this stuff, the better. And then as we go into further production meetings, we will set a time in which, there's a cutoff period. No more new things coming into the space. It just becomes too much, and we'll all decide what that looks like and means as well, just to be fair to the team as well as the cast. So we'll talk about that as well.
Are you saying that rehearsal pieces that are needed for Brittany will come out of the budget?
Not rehearsal pieces.
Okay, all right.
I was saying we can pull stuff for rehearsal pieces.
Okay.
Until the pieces come, especially if you're building something, for an example, just so that person can get an idea of the weight or just whatever it may need.
All right, I got you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I just wanted to shift gears into COVID protocol. As you all know, it's very, very important that we continue the Bison Safe app when we come onto campus. So that's something that should be going to the cast, reminding them, because some members, are still in asynchronous and hybrid classes, so they might not have had to be on campus that day when they rehearse. So it's definitely important that we discuss that reminder and what that protocol is, maybe them taking a screenshot of it, that it's been complete, that shows you are approved, and the scan code with the date, so that Maya, when they check in and sign in, you can say, okay, great, thank you so much. And it just keeps us COVID compliant as well. And we'll talk about those additional spreadsheets and lists. And I'm sure Professor Ramon wants to hop in and assist as well with things that can help you, Maya, as far as stage management. Hey, Benny, we'll jump into lighting really soon. And so that's very, very key. It's very, very important that when we begin the work that will require them to take off their masks, that we are putting that on the schedule, so that we are reminding the students of the importance of getting tested, and that we're getting those results. Okay, so Brittany, Maya, we can chat about that offline, about what that looks like and means as you're thinking about the rehearsal schedule and things like that. We'll look at what that looks like and what that means about increased testing for the students and them turning in their results. We'll also talk in a separate call about what that looks like and means if we have to, do a pause and a quarantine because of a student, whether in production or out of production, because they're a part of this cast, as well as faculty or designers. So that's something to look into. And any vendor that's coming out would need to follow the same protocol. So whether it's Michael, whether he's bringing in an extra person on his team, whatever it is, they have to follow the same basic protocols of just having, masks and things of that nature. But if you could also share a cast list with everybody, just so that they're aware of who's all a part of it, that would also help us with numbers when we're thinking about other elements like when we're filming, I want to be able to offer meals if I can. So I want to look at some other things I want to be able to do, as well as extra face shields. So times in between cuts and filming, we have those extra elements to provide that safety. And then when we get to the point of scheduling longer times, we'll make sure that we're scheduling the proper breaks that we need to pause and stop and clean, especially with the business of props and pieces and things of that nature. So that's kind of my wrap up and spill about COVID protocols. Gratefully and thankfully, Crescent is a COVID compliant officer. So hers coming in as PM. She won't be at every rehearsal, but she will definitely be there for the weekend of filming. And she will be helping us to maintain that. The other part of it is that we go about our day every day without a COVID compliant officer beside us. And it's because we operate in wisdom. And so we have to remember to just do that as well. Okay, I'll turn it over to, oh, before I turn it over to you, Benny, I have questions about Brittany, musicians. If you can give us a spiel on that, what are you thinking about with band and where they possibly, how many pieces and professionals, where they possibly will be placed? And choreography, I know you mentioned Professor Rawls at the, are we still trying to go into that direction?
Professor Roll
Okay.
is choreographing. There will be a 3-piece band, piano or keyboard, set, and bass. And they're on the platform that's stage right.
Okay, okay. Benny, we'll give it over to you for lighting.
Well, I'm just trying to understand the little sketch here. So there's a band stage right or stage left? This sketch suggests to me that it's stage right.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Okay. And that's it for scene, for any kind of scenic element.
Yes. Just this. And
Okay.
things move.
And how far downstage or upstage is this relative to the proscenium arch?
This is upstage.
Mhm.
And then the scrim is, I didn't go in and measure, but I can do that.
Scrim? Okay.
Yes.
Well, as soon as we could get a ground plan developed, we will kind of see what we could do. Let's hope that we can produce some of this kind of inspiration, because we're dealing with some really tired equipment. Do we have a budget for color and all of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we don't have a set, we have a total budget. We have to figure out as how we're divvying this up, as a majority of the budget will need to go to sound. So once Brittany is able to negotiate what that will look like for Michael Willis to come in with sound and bringing his equipment and serving as sound design engineer, we'll be able to see what's kind of left and happening for designers. And as well as musicians, and where we need to pull extra from. So Benny, we'll have that probably by the end of the week next week. We'll know what budget really looks like for each of the areas.
Okay, and the 19 pieces, according to this, that's correct? That's a...
Yes.
All right.
As we move closer, something may get cut, but as of now, 19.
All right. And well, once we have a rehearsal schedule and I can come in and take a look at what's going on. I mean, some of these songs I know, some I don't.
I can also, if it would be helpful, I know that sometimes listening is helpful, or seeing what the YouTube has. There's a playlist that I've created. If you would like for me to add that to the document that you all have, I can do that as well.
Well, if we can hear the songs that are listed here.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I have a playlist, and so I can add it to that document.
All right.
Thank you. Benny, anything else?
Not immediately. I mean, I'm just now getting a look at this.
So I will start working on a ground plan or some ideas, and then Brittany, I'll shoot those over to you, and then we can discuss. And at least because I'm sure that's something Benny needs like ASAP. So
Right. So that's, yes, I'd love to meet with you all individually soon. And as I said, I am working right now to try to find some more money. Because, yes.
Brittany,
Yes, ma'am.
also one more question. The pieces that are being choreographed, when that's being done, can the choreographer keep in mind the pieces that the students are supplying that they will be wearing for those choreographed pieces? They're coming from their personal wardrobe. So I think the choreographer should know the type of fabric, whether or not it's the pants are stretch, can the boys do a pirouette, a kick, I think that's important for them to know prior to putting the work together and then not being surprised or shocked when it's time to get into costume and they can't do the moves in certain things that were required for them to bring. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm understanding what you're saying.
Okay. All right. I did have dance pants in black that stretched, but they were all thrown out. They were brand new that I bought, but so something to keep in mind for the choreographer, the
Yes,
limitation. Okay.
thank you.
And then let me know how soon you want to have a one-on-one, once I get the lookbook together and send it to you.
Okay, once you get that to me, we'll arrange.
Okay. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're at open discussion, so this is the time and want to ask anything if they forgot to while someone was talking, or just any looming question that anyone may have. Again, this is the first of several meetings that we will have. But yes, Robert, you had your hand up.
So Brittany, are you going to be doing directing and musical directing, the pieces?
The musical theater team will be working together to help put this show up.
Okay. And so a lot of this is in the classroom. I'm asking for specifically so that we can see when we get down, because this is a small amount of time to rehearse. One, and really like with these pieces, because it's going to be so fluid, trying to get into place when those rehearsal props and costumes are first introduced. So I'm going to be, I need to work with you on seeing what that schedule is, how you're breaking out each one of these. When is choreography going on for what day to what day, so that we have it on a grid. So if anything slides out of pace, we do know we can have a conversation of how we're catching up, what we're going to do to alter, etc. I did have one other question. I think it was.
While you're getting your other question, I will tell you now the calendar is not going to be the traditional production calendar for a musical, just because we are working with the MT team, and all of us have, as y'all know, we have jobs that we must do outside of the university. So it's very specific in the what days folks can come and when we
Yeah,
can
that's fine.
work.
As long
Yeah,
as it's like
so
on a grid, then we can see, because once
exactly,
the
we'll
students
have it
are in
on the
place-
calendar, of course, but
Okay. Because that's what one of the things that I know we need a growth in, a huge growth departmental wise, is when the students are in rehearsal, that we have all the things we need as the tools. It's too much pantomiming for too long. It's too much not having what it is you're going to be working with for too long. They're not professionals. And so we just have to add more time in on the other side. That's why we get that schedule, whatever it is, we can strategically start making sure that the students have what they need in that space. So we're not getting to tech yelling and all that. You should be, all that jazz.
we'll be working on the schedule in the next few days, so we'll get it to you as soon as we can.
All right, anything else from anybody? Okay,
Robin had something else.
I
but-
thought she did, but she's
Uh-huh.
looking at her notebook. We're in the same office, so I keep turning my volume up and down. Did you find your other question?
No, I think it was, it was a question. Do the students already know this music and you all are just rehearsing, or are you all going in to teach them the music in this rehearsal period?
The latter.
Okay, so we'll be having time to teach the music and there'll be
choreography.
time to teach choreography. So that makes it even more complex. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any other questions or comments?